The Grand Conclave floated in the void like a crown of darkness, an obsidian citadel orbiting a dying red star. Its light bled across the black marble of the council floor, reflecting on the faces of 1,000 alien delegates. They were the rulers of the known galaxy, creatures of wisdom, arrogance, and power. Yet on this day they gathered for something trivial, almost ceremonial, the final decision on the species known as humans. Zahar of the Irian Archive sat at the edge of the chamber, my lenses recording every detail. I had chronicled the rise and fall of empires, the extinction of planets, the forging of alliances. But never had I seen such casual certainty, such cruel amusement. "Primitive," hissed a Vorn delegate, her tendrils curling. "They still burn fuel for fire." "Emotional," rumbled a Charn warlord. "They wage war upon themselves." "Unstable," murmured a Creel scientist. "They feel too much too quickly. It is inefficient." Laughter echoed through the chamber like a chorus of blades drawn across metal. The Supreme Chancellor of the Alliance raised his hand. The hall fell silent. His voice was cold and absolute. "By vote of the Grand Conclave, the species known as Homo sapiens is hereby subjugated under Article 9. The planet Earth shall serve as a resource colony, its population redistributed as labor assets." The decree rippled outward in holographic projections, racing through the data streams of 1,000 worlds. Across the galaxy, the enslavers celebrated. The broadcast carried the Chancellor's final words. "The age of human obedience begins." I should have felt satisfaction, another conquest for the record. But instead I felt something else, a flicker of unease. From the far reaches of the Milky Way, faint transmissions began to pulse through the void. Static-laced, crude, yet deliberate. Human voices? They were not pleas for mercy. They were not cries for help. The first transmission was a woman's voice. "We hear you watching. We see you coming. Just remember, every empire that tried to cage us fell from the inside." The chamber erupted in mocking laughter when the message was played. "Such bravado," someone scoffed. "A dying species trying to sound grand." But I did not laugh. The human's tone, defiant, calm, certain, carried something I could not define. It was not madness. It was faith, a belief in something beyond comprehension. Later, in my private quarters, I replayed the broadcast. I froze the image on the woman's face, eyes dark and unwavering, a faint scar tracing her temple. She stared directly into the lens, into me through light years of void. I felt my tendrils twitch with unease. There was power there, primitive, untamed, and unbreakable. The kind of strength that does not bow even before extinction. In my log, I wrote, "The humans have been conquered." Their spirit, however, remains unclassified. I should have ended the record there, but my hand did not stop. My instincts, honed by centuries of chronicling civilizations, warned me. Every empire falls, but some fall screaming. And so I added one final line. "The age of human obedience begins." When I sealed the entry, I did not know why my hearts pounded. Somewhere, in the dark between stars, humanity was listening, watching, waiting. Outside the conclave, the dying star flickered once, just once, like an eye-opening, and I felt, for the first time, that the galaxy had made a mistake. The decree has been passed, but the humans' eerie calm and warning transmission foreshadow the storm to come. The conquest began with fire. From orbit, I watched as the skies of Earth ignited, hundreds of ships cutting through the atmosphere like burning knives. Plasma storms devoured their defense grids. Electromagnetic pulses silenced their satellites. In less than 6 hours, the cradle of humanity was laid bare beneath the banners of the Galactic Alliance. Cities once blazing with light went dark. Towers fell. Oceans shimmered with wreckage. To the conquerors, it was efficient, a textbook subjugation. But to me, Zahar of the Irians, something about it felt too quiet. When we landed, the air was thick with smoke and silence. The humans did not plead. They did not scream. They stared. Their eyes followed every soldier, every drone, every burning skyship with a calm that made even the Vorn captains hesitate. Our translators recorded their Mutterings, fragments, phrases. Hold the line. Wait for signal. Not yet. The machines flagged them as nonsense. Yet the same words appeared everywhere, from the ruins of New York to the wastelands of Siberia. Primitive coordination attempts, the overseers declared. They will crumble soon enough, but they didn't. Weeks turned into months. Resistance did not vanish, it mutated. Whole populations disappeared overnight. One morning we found London empty, streets abandoned, lights still burning in every window. The next, a mining colony on Mars collapsed into its own tunnels. No bodies, no signals, just absence. The commanders insisted it was evacuation, but I began to sense something deeper. The humans had gone underground, not fleeing but transforming. My reports grew increasingly erratic. I described the unease among the ranks, the way soldiers spoke of eyes in the dark, of shadows that moved with intent. Supplies vanished. Ships failed diagnostics. Entire data archives were erased by human-made malware. Code so elegant it fooled even our AI sentinels. Impossible, the engineers spat. They are incapable of this sophistication, and yet every day they proved us wrong. I remember one night in particular. The clouds over the ruins of Beijing glowed red from the fires below. I stood on the observation deck staring at the wasteland. Through the static, my receiver caught a transmission. Old Earth bandwidth, nearly indecipherable. This is Colonel Rains. To anyone still listening, his voice was coarse, human, and unyielding. We may be chained, but we are not broken. They think they own our world. They think they understand our will. But they can't enslave what they don't comprehend. Every city they burn becomes a forge. Every loss becomes a lesson. We're still here, and we're not done. The message looped twice before fading into static. When I brought it before the Conclave's governor, he laughed. Propaganda, he said. Their dying breath. But I knew propaganda when I heard it. This was not desperation, it was a promise. The next day, our orbital sensors detected faint activity beneath the Earth's crust. Massive heat signatures, movement, construction. The governors dismissed it as tectonic shifts. I disagreed. In my personal archive, I began a forbidden chronicle, The Human Anomaly. Entry after entry, I documented their silence, their patterns, their vanishing act. To my horror, a realization dawned. Humanity had not been conquered at all. They had simply adapted. Our empire had mistaken quiet for defeat. Soon the infection spread, not in their ranks, but ours. Troops refused orders. Commanders grew paranoid. Rumors of human retaliation, phantoms sabotaging bases, ghost transmissions echoing in comm channels poisoned morale. And then it happened. At dawn, above the ruins of Rio, one of our sky fortresses detonated from within. A chain of explosions followed, each precisely timed, each targeting our command ships. The cause was traced to a virus, code written in a dead Earth programming language, executed with flawless precision. Human. I stood on the observation deck, staring at the fireball blooming across the horizon. Somewhere down there, beneath the soil, those defiant creatures were smiling. I could feel it. They were not running. They were preparing. The Conclave ordered immediate retaliation, planetary sterilization, total erasure. But the order came too late. Our communication arrays were already compromised. Every transmission looped with a haunting echo, Colonel Rains's voice, repeating again and again, "You cannot enslave the will of our kind." For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Alliance trembled, and as I looked down at the burning Earth, I realized the truth no one wanted to say aloud. We had lit the fires of our own destruction. We had mistaken patience for weakness. The humans were not conquered. They were waiting. The chains had melted. But not from heat. From resolve, Zahar realizes the humans' enslavement is only the beginning. They are preparing something vast beneath the surface, and the galaxy doesn't yet know what's coming. Time has a strange way of rewriting truth. Decades passed since the conquest of Earth, and already the official records had softened the story. In the academies of the Galactic Alliance, they called it the pacification of Sol 3. They taught our younglings that the humans were an emotional, reckless race, brilliant in flashes, but destined to destroy themselves. But beyond the propaganda screens, whispers persisted. Stories of sabotage, ships vanishing near the Terran sector, entire moons going dark, their colonies silent. To most, they were myths, ghost tales told to scare new recruits. To me, they were a warning. By then, I had been promoted to High Chronicler of the Irian Collective, a comfortable position that required me only to observe. My species thrived on the labor extracted from human colonies, their engineers, their builders, their miners. And yet, even in their supposed servitude, I noticed it. A rhythm, a pulse, a quiet defiance beneath their mechanical obedience. When I visited the colonies, I would find them singing as they worked. Simple harmonics, low and steady, harmless, the overseers said. But it was not harmony, it was communication, a code. Then came the first disappearance. A mining moon called Althus 9, gone dark. The next week, another core station. Fleets sent to investigate never returned. Surveillance drones came back half-melted, their memory cores filled with corrupted data, etched with a single human word. Soon, the High Council called it sabotage. I called it something worse, evolution. And so, against my advisor's protests, I requested direct observation, permission to return to Earth itself. It was denied twice, approved once. When my vessel broke through the atmosphere, I expected ruins, ash, and decay. Instead, I saw rebirth. The world once enslaved now shimmered with vitality. Green forests had reclaimed dead cities. Rivers gleamed where battle scars once ran deep. From orbit, Earth looked alive again. Too alive. Impossible, murmured my navigator. Their biosphere should have collapsed. Sensors detected no massive industrial output, no global communication signals. Yet the planet radiated with faint, pulsing energy, organic, deliberate. Like a heartbeat. I descended through the clouds, landing in what used to be the remains of the old American continent. My scanners picked up life signs, thousands, no weapons, no defenses, just humans, watching. They stood in silence as my ship settled into the grasslands. Men, women, children, all unarmed, all calm. Their eyes followed us like the gaze of an ancient force. Requesting communication, I said, activating the translator. This is Zahar of the Galactic Alliance. We come in observation, not hostility. A woman stepped forward. She wore no armor, no insignia. Her voice was clear. Observation? She repeated. You've been observing for a century. My throat constricted. We believed your kind diminished. Her expression barely shifted. You believed wrong. Then, as if on cue, the sky flickered. Not lightning, something else. A distortion in the upper atmosphere. My instruments screamed warnings as thousands of tiny signals blinked into existence. Orbiting satellites, I thought. No, weapons. Across the void, ships began to detonate. Not from missile strikes, not from external force. Their cores simply inverted. My crew shouted over comms. Fleet Alpha, gone. Beta formation, imploding. Unknown code infiltration, human signature detected. And then I heard it. Over every frequency, every channel. A voice echoing across space, calm and steady. You taught us control. You showed us your machines, your codes, your arrogance. We learned them all, and now we are free. The voice belonged to Colonel Rains, the same man whose message had haunted my archives decades ago. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as our armadas burned. One by one, ships turned to molten debris, raining down like crimson comets. I stood frozen at the viewport, watching the impossible unfold. The humans had not only survived, they had ascended. They had learned to speak to the very systems that enslaved them, to twist them into weapons of liberation. How? My second officer gasped. I whispered, because they listened when we never did. The atmosphere around Earth shimmered with electromagnetic chaos, energy bursts in patterns that matched human neural waves. They had merged with their technology, rewired their evolution. From orbit, I could see continents lighting up, not with cities, but with glowing veins of power pulsing through the Earth itself. A planet reborn as a living engine. Then came the silence. Every transmission across the Alliance went dark. My ship, the Irian Sight, was the last to maintain connection with Central Command. Through static, I heard the panic of admirals, the shouts of dying captains, and finally, nothing. We were alone. "Zahar," whispered the navigator, trembling. "What do we do?" I could not answer. My gaze remained locked on the blue-green world below. Humanity had not reclaimed freedom. They had outgrown us. Their vengeance was not blind rage. It was balance. A reckoning written in silence and precision. As the debris of our fleet rained through Earth's skies, I noticed the humans watching the stars. Not cheering, not weeping, just waiting. And in that moment, I understood. They were not finished. Earth was only the beginning. The spark we tried to extinguish had become a wildfire in the void, burning unseen, unstoppable. And as my systems began to fail, as the planet's strange energy pulsed through every circuit, I heard Colonel Rain's voice one last time, barely a whisper over the static. "We don't seek revenge. We seek remembrance." The transmission ended. My ship trembled, caught in the pull of a force I could not name. Through the viewport, I watched the stars flicker. Hundreds of them. Not random, coordinated. Each flicker, a message. I decoded the first 3 symbols before the power cut. They spelled a single word: begin. The darkness swallowed us whole. And in that final instant, I realized with terrible clarity, the humans were no longer the hunted. They were the architects of what would come next. Zahar's ship loses power as humanity, reveals its rebirth as a technological superior species, ready to ignite a galactic uprising. The galaxy burns, where once the banners of 1,000 empires shimmered across the stars. Now only wreckage drifts, silent. Glowing cinders in the dark, I, Zahar of the Irians, record what may be my final chronicle, not as a historian, but as a survivor. It began quietly, like the whisper of an oncoming storm. A few missing fleets. Static on the deep band channels. Outposts ceasing transmission mid-sentence. At first, the Alliance believed it to be rebellion among the lesser colonies. But then the wreckage started appearing. Shattered dreadnoughts sliced clean through. Entire battle groups, erased from existence, and amid the debris, the same haunting mark burned into hull plating with precision that mocked artistry, a symbol of a human hand, fingers splayed, palm open. The sign of their species, the humans had returned. Their ships emerged from the shadows like ghosts, sleek, silent, and utterly foreign. They bore no insignia, no call signs. Their hulls gleamed with alloys we once used to shackle their kind. Our own technology turned against us. They did not announce themselves. They did not demand surrender. They simply struck. At first, we tried to track them. Impossible. They appeared in impossible vectors, their drives bending light and gravity in ways our scientists could not replicate. They tore through the Creel Dominion, annihilated the Vorn fleets, and dismantled the Charn war armadas that once spanned 3 systems. "Negotiate," cried the Council. "Send envoys." But the humans did not answer. They spoke only through action, through silence more chilling than war cries. I watched as the transmissions poured in, planet after planet pleading for mercy. Whole species offering reparations, servitude, anything to stop the storm. But there was no reply. Their vengeance was not chaos. It was orchestration, cold, methodical, surgical. They didn't destroy for pleasure, they removed threats. Every blow calculated, every world targeted for a reason, and beneath that precision I saw something deeper. Not hatred, not even rage. Purpose. The humans had evolved beyond the need to hate us. They had transcended the very emotion that made them dangerous, and in doing so became something far worse. One by one, the core worlds fell. Then they came for Irios Prime, my home. I watched from the surface as the sky turned white. The Irian defense grid, once considered impenetrable, collapsed within minutes. Their ships did not bombard. They unmade. The atmosphere shimmered, then folded inward, the very energy drawn from our planetary core. It was not an invasion. It was an execution. I ran through the burning streets, the air thick with metallic ash. Around me, the proud spires of Aryan civilization, 10,000 years of art, culture, and arrogance crumbled into molten glass. Above the horizon, the human vessels moved in eerie silence, their engines glowing a pale blue unlike any known fusion output. No radio chatter, no taunts, just motion. Swift, deliberate, final. Why? I screamed into my recorder. Why us? Why now? No answer. Only the faint hum of energy as another wave of ships dissolved in the upper atmosphere. And then, a transmission. Short, encrypted, familiar. This is Colonel Rains. His voice. The same man from the broadcasts of my youth, unchanged, ageless. We warned you. You called it defiance. You called it madness. You taught us what fear was. Now we are what comes after fear. Static swallowed the message. I looked up. For a heartbeat, I saw one of their ships through the smoke. Sleek, obsidian, its form reflecting the light of our dying world. Upon its hull, the human hand symbol pulsed once, then vanished. The silence that followed was worse than any scream. My species, gone. My planet, ash. The galaxy, fractured. The remaining empires turned to one another in desperation. Some offered allegiance to the humans. Others fled beyond the rim into the dark between galaxies. The bravest tried to fight. None succeeded. I became a fugitive among the ruins of the civilization I once chronicled. Every station I visited whispered the same phrase, "Don't look at the stars." The humans are watching. Across the void, their fleets moved like storms, invisible until the moment they struck. And then one day, the transmissions changed. Not from humans, but from those begging for mercy. Negotiate with Earth, they said. Offer peace. But there was no Earth anymore. The homeworld they once called Terra was gone from all known charts, hidden, cloaked, unreachable, as if the humans had folded their world into the fabric of myth itself. We began to believe they no longer existed in our plane of space, that perhaps they had evolved beyond the physical, something between matter and memory. I began my final broadcast from the ruins of Irios Prime, my voice trembling. My soul hollow, this is Zahar of the Irians. To any species still listening, know this, we made them monsters, and now they are gods. My transmission echoed through the void, unanswered, but I knew it would be heard. They heard everything, because the humans never spoke without intent, and silence. Silence was the loudest message of all. In that silence, the galaxy understood. Diplomacy was over. Judgment had begun. Now, across the stars, every species that once mocked them, every council that once voted to enslave them, sends ships bearing white flags, coded transmissions of surrender. But the humans do not reply. They have no need to. They have become the story that ends all others. The legend children will whisper across every surviving world, the tale of the frail creatures who defied gods, and in doing so, became divine. I end this record beneath a sky that no longer belongs to us. The constellations themselves seem to burn in new patterns, arranged, perhaps deliberately. When I align them on my screen, they form a symbol. A human hand, fingers open, palm toward the stars, a sign not of peace, but of ownership. And as the last of our satellites collapses into the void, I understand the truth too late. The humans were never fighting for freedom. They were building an empire of silence, and now, the galaxy itself kneels to listen. Zahar's broadcast ends as the last remnants of civilization fade. Across the stars, the human signal begins transmitting again, something vast, ancient, and unstoppable, signaling that the final phase is about to begin. The galaxy had gone quiet. For the first time in millennia, the void was free of war, free of fleets burning across the stars. But it was not peace. It was the silence of guilt. I, Zahar of the Irians, survivor of extinction, chronicler of collapse, have lived long enough to see the universe kneel. The great empires that once ruled from their thrones of arrogance now gather again, not in pride, but in desperation. They call it the Reformed Council. The chamber, rebuilt in orbit around a shattered moon, glows with dim blue light. Its walls are scarred by plasma fire, reminders of what the humans left behind. There are no banners now, no symbols of dominance, only the quiet hum of remorse. Representatives of 200 surviving species sit in silence, their voices trembling as they cast their votes, not for power, not for war, but for forgiveness. "Let us send one last message," says the Vorn Chancellor, her eyes hollow. "Let them know we surrender. Not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as children asking their parents for mercy." No one argues. The motion passes unanimously. The message is sent on every known frequency, translated into every known tongue. A single phrase that echoes across the stars. "Forgive us. Teach us mercy." And then the waiting begins. Days pass. Then weeks. No reply. The humans remain silent, their fleets unseen but ever present. Sensors still detect their gravitational signatures on the edge of known space. Immense, cold, patient. Watching. Rumors spread. Some say the humans have left the galaxy entirely, moving beyond the edge of reality itself. Others believe they have transcended into something more. Energy, thought, perhaps even divinity, but I cannot believe that. Because 3 cycles later, the impossible happens. A human vessel appears. It does not emerge through warp. It unfolds, a distortion in the very fabric of space, like reality itself making room for its presence. Sleek, obsidian, silent. The council trembles. I am chosen to greet them, not as a politician, but as the last historian of the old order. Perhaps they believe my words can earn us redemption. Perhaps they only wish to send a relic to meet a god. The chamber doors part, and she steps through. A human. Not armored, not armed. Just a woman. Her skin pale, her hair silver like the light of a dying star. Her eyes, not cruel, not kind. Simply ancient. Every representative bows their head. I do the same. She looks at me. "Tsar of the Irians," she says. Her voice is calm, low, steady. "You've been recording for a long time." "Yes," I answer. My throat tightens. Because someone must remember. She studies me for a long moment, as if measuring the weight of my soul. "You have questions," she says. I do. My hands shake as I hold the recorder. Why now? Why end the wars only to vanish into silence? Why leave us in fear? Her gaze drifts to the great viewport behind us, where the stars shimmer like frozen tears. "You feared us," she says quietly. "You always did. You feared what we might become, but you never understood us." I wait. "We never wanted to rule," she continues. "We only wanted to be free. Every act of defiance, every war you forced upon us, it taught us what survival truly means. Unity, sacrifice, hope. These were the weapons you could never wield." Her voice carries no pride, no malice. Only truth. I feel my eyes burn. "And now?" I whisper. "Now that you have peace?" She turns to face me fully, and for the first time I see emotion, faint, fragile, human, beneath her calm. "Now," she says, "we remember." Her words strike deeper than any weapon. The council chamber is silent. No one dares breathe, then she steps closer. I can see the faint pulse of light along her veins, the subtle hum of hybrid energy within her form. She is not entirely organic, not entirely machine. Humanity has become something between. I bow my head. "We are sorry," I whisper, "for what we did to your kind. For the chains, the wars, the arrogance." She watches me for a long time. Then gently she says, "You are not the first to fall to fear, but perhaps you will be the last." She places a small device on the table, a crystal sphere that glows with faint golden light. Inside it, stars swirl in miniature, forming a spiral pattern that mirrors the Milky Way itself. "This is what we leave behind," she says. "A memory of who we were. Use it. Learn from it. Do not repeat us." I look up, voice trembling. "Will you return?" Her expression softens. "We never left. We are in every spark that dares to fight against extinction. Every act of mercy that defies cruelty. We are what you become when you choose to endure." And with that, she turns. The air ripples. Space bends. She and the ship that brought her fade into light. The council breaks into weeping. Not of fear, of release. The message is clear. The humans have judged us and chosen not to destroy, but to forgive by leaving us to rebuild ourselves. I return to my quarters and begin to record my final entry. The galaxy is at peace, I whisper, my claws trembling above the console. Not because humanity conquered it, but because they reminded us what it means to be alive. I close my eyes and think of Earth, the lost world, once mocked and enslaved, now a symbol that burns brighter than any sun. Perhaps they were never gods. Perhaps they were only what we all could have been, had we learned sooner. My recorder flickers as I end the chronicle. I speak one last sentence into the silence. They were human. And that was enough. The transmission fades into the stars, joining countless others, and for the first time in my long life, the void feels warm.